I'm Joe. This is Sierra's Specialty Auto. Welcome back to the shop. We're in the middle of a project converting a wakeboard rack into a slalom ski rack for a performance ski boat. Let's get right back to work on the milling machine. Next chore is to dress out this transition from the back to the full width. That looks pretty good. I can blend that out by draw filing. No problem. So we will break this down, rotate the work 180, and do the matching surface at the other side. Very nice. Before I disturb this setup, I want to see if I can use a 45-degree end mill to do some chamfering around this hook up here for the bungee cord. So I'm going to shut the camera down for a minute, come back with a different setup. Well, this will be interesting. Let's see how well I can make this work. This is more of an experiment than anything else. We'll have a combination of handwork and rotary table. actually, that looks pretty good. I'm fairly satisfied with that. Let's get around to the other side, do that one more time. I finished up by getting far enough out from the ears of the bungee hook that I can get to this with a chamfering bit in my router table in the wood shop. So I'll finish the rest of this chamfering I'll do on the router table. The rotary table is clamped down in the rear slot on the table. In order to get to these faces, I have to bring it forward to the forward slot. Otherwise, I don't have enough Y travel to get in position for these. So I'll be back when I've got that set up. Well, we're getting down to the short rows, as Keith Rucker would say. I've got this rotary table moved to the near T slot. That gives me room in the Y to get back to the final pair of angles that we need to dress up on here. Let's get in a little closer. Get a good view of this. I'll do one more of these on camera, then I'll swing it around, do the other end. Then I have to turn the whole thing over and do a little chamfering on the other side. I forgot to turn the camera on, so you were spared the ugly spectacle of me trying to XY by hand around these corners to get the chamfering done in this area. I'm going to go off camera now, finish chamfering and deburring, and come back for the work of drilling for these brackets. Let's back up a little bit here. I guess in a perfect world, I would have drilled in counterboard for the screws for these brackets before I did any of the other machine work. But of course, this is not a perfect world. It's my world. The next job is to drill clearance for 5/16 stainless steel Allen head cap screw and counterbore for the head on what I'm calling the back side of this. The countersunk fasteners that bolt this onto the bracket are on the bottom as it sits right now, so these counterbores go on the top. Got the mill set for about 1300 RPM. We'll find centers and edges, and this is approximately the pattern I need. My witness marks there for what I call my sanity check to make sure I'm in the ballpark. We're 3 inches apart on the holes and 9/16 back from the edge. I'll spot drill with 120-degree spotting drill per the recommendation of the inestimable Stefan Gotteswinder. Now we want 1.5 inches off of center. That's one end done. Now I'll flip it end for end. I'll have to find center of my pattern again because this is not symmetrical from top to bottom. This offset at these tapers is different on the top and the bottom. As I was working on the edges, filing and sanding the edges, I realized I have one more pair of holes to drill. This has a bungee cord which is installed in these two holes, about 3 1/8 inch outboard of the center mounting holes, wraps around the whole thing and hooks on these ears. So I need to duplicate these holes. They're in the original, they're in this wide part. Of course, on this one, the wide part is way down that way. So I have to bring it in some. And since this is just bungee cords and not doesn't mate with anything, I'm going to bring these holes in to the same line as these mounting holes, and then counterbore them to 9/16, about the same depth as these existing holes. So let's get started on that. This first hole is 3 1/8 over from this line. This hole will be 3 1/8 plus 100 plus 1 300,000ths, which is the spacing here, for a total of 4.425 from 0, which I've set right here, from 0 over to here. I don't have the right pilot for this counterbore, so I've put a 1/2 inch collet in the quill, and I'm going to choke up like a son of a gun on this counterbore and hope it runs true. Counterbore depth for these holes is 350 thousandths. I'll set that on the W axis DRO right there, and then again I'll be able to go to full extension of the quill, and that'll set my depth. That counterbore could use a better edge. Back to a 3/4 inch collet. Put the drill chuck back in here and countersink. Love my tree collet. So now I'll deburr the other side of that hole and sand the faces of the top and bottom faces as it sits right now, and this project will be done. I'm pretty happy with this. I sanded both sides, running up from 100 grit up to 500 grit with an orbital sander, and I have a pattern that is not tremendously different from the original. I'm not sure how well that's going to show. This is a little darker, partly from age, I think, on the original, but it's pretty close. I think, especially since I was not asked for appearance, I think my friend's going to be very happy with this. So we have these brackets to reinstall with the 5/16 cap screws. I need to bolt this onto the bottom here in the proper orientation. I'll have to think about that and remember how it was on the boat. These fasteners were installed with anti-seize. At first I thought it might have been Loctite, but it is still wet on the fasteners, and it has that gray look of anti-seize. So I will put all these pieces back together, and we'll come back for one final look after it's assembled. I'm still pretty happy about the way this thing looks. Turn this different angles. I hope we're getting a good picture, because by the time I get around to editing, this is going to be long gone, and I think it'll do exactly what the man wants. Here's the original bracket hardware that mounts onto the superstructure that holds up the canopy and all the lights and speakers and everything. So this job's done, ready to give back, and this video's done. I thank you for sticking with me through this whole thing. I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already, and I really hope you'll come back and visit the shop again. Thank you.